Good evening and welcome to NewsNight. My name is Nick Konopka. Tonight we'll give you all your international, national, and local news. Find out more information about the current situation around the conflict in Ukraine. We'll also tell you more about the United States raising gas prices. Lastly, our reporters will let you know what changes are being made to the current postal system and what airline had to arrest a pilot this week. All this and more coming up on NewsNight. On Monday, Russian and Ukrainian negotiators met for their third round of peace talks. As with the previous meetings between the nations, there was little progress made. The 4-hour talks were held at the Belarus border. According to Ukraine's lead negotiator, the little progress that was made centered around the opening of more humanitarian corridors for Ukrainians to flee into Europe. For the invasion to cease, Russia has said that Ukraine must agree to stop its military actions, acknowledge Crimea as a Russian territory, as well as create a constitutional amendment that would bar the country from ever joining NATO. In a statement to Russian media outlets, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said the Ukrainians should, quote, stop their military action and then no one will shoot. That outcome is not likely as President Zelensky and his fellow Ukrainians remain resistant to attacks on their capital of Kyiv, and as more foreign aid is expected to be sent to the country. Aside from the NATO leaders who have called for a peaceful end to the war, President Xi Jinping of China has also joined with a message of peace. In a call with the leaders of France and Germany, President Xi expressed support for the peace talks while also supporting the claim of security concerns on the part of Russia. The third round of peace talks are said to take place soon, as confirmed by Russian negotiator Leonid Slutsky. However, with the little progress that has been made with the previous talks, Ukrainian officials are growing weary. They are calling for talks to take place between Presidents Zelensky and Putin to sort out the war. On ABC News, the Ukrainian president said that he was, quote, ready for a dialogue. All that is left is for Putin to agree to negotiate. With the conflict in Ukraine changing daily, the people outside of the country have found a new way to help Ukrainian citizens using a non-conventional method, Airbnb. Users are booking multiple Airbnbs in Ukraine to send money to the citizens living there. The company announced that there have been more than 61,000 bookings in the Ukrainian area since the conflict began, with more than 34,000 being from the U.S. The website itself has waived guest and host fees in an effort to encourage more users to support Ukrainians through the app, as well as creating a new website called Airbnb.org that provides donations as well as aid. Also in Ukraine news, there are tensions also along the Ukrainian and Polish border. Reporter Aaron Ute has more information about the discrimination that refugees are facing.
As hundreds of thousands continue to flee Ukraine, some immigrants and students of color fleeing Russian attacks reported being stuck in limbo at the borders. Adi Mo-Ambiol, a Nigerian student studying in Ukraine, told ABC News that he and a group of African students have been waiting for a train to cross into Poland for nearly 3 days, but were told to wait. He said, quote, the Ukrainians are given priority, which is to women and children, but our lives also matter, end quote. Women, children, and the elderly have been given priority at border crossings, while many Ukrainian men of fighting age have stayed behind after Ukraine began to draft men aged 18 to 60 to fight against Russian attacks. According to data from Ukraine's Ministry of Education and Science, in 2019 there were about 80,000 international students studying in Ukraine from 158 countries, the majority, 23%, coming from India, Morocco, and Nigeria. Additionally, ABC News reported that some train cars heading to Poland that were designated for non-Ukrainian men held back some non-white refugees at various border crossings, believing that they were discriminated against based on race. In addition, some Ukrainian men of age to fight were allowed to board these trains, making those who were designated for to wait. Ukraine's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dmytro Kuleba, announced last Wednesday that Ukraine set up an emergency hotline for African, Asian, and other students seeking to leave Ukraine to, quote, ensure their safety and speed up their passage.
Coming up after the break, find out what airline had to remove a pilot who was incapable to fly the plane due to some outside circumstances. Also, our reporters will get you all the information about the USPS's Senate-mandated changes. We'll be right back.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, and welcome back to NewsNight. Most of the student body of the Pittsburgh Public School.
Some of the United States allies.
Thursday, the FBI was seen raiding.
Let's get started with today's forecast.
Today's high will only reach about 31 degrees.
It's looking a little cooler than we've seen in the past few weeks.
All this and more?
All this and more
All this and more coming up on NewsNight.
coming up on NewsNight.
Coming up on NewsNight. As the war in Ukraine rages on, Americans are beginning to feel the effects at the pump. According to AAA, the average price of gas in the U.S. has reached $4.25 per gallon, which is up from about $3 1 year ago. Pennsylvanians are seeing even higher costs, with our average price nearing $4.40. Some of this increase can be attributed to a slowdown in Russian oil exports due to the country's invasion of Ukraine. So far, there has been about a 30% decrease in oil coming out of Russia. That number is expected to increase with President Biden's recent announcement that the U.S. will no longer buy oil from Russia, a move that would impede the invasion of Ukraine while also raising prices here at home. With the war in Ukraine at front of mind for most, there are also seasonal trends that contribute to the price increases. As spring and summer near, gas prices tend to go up due to increased demand. President Biden recently approved the release of 30 million barrels of oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to help increase the supply. However, that supply is only set to last a week with the rate at which the U.S. burns fuel. There are ways, however, to make a tank of gas last. According to the Department of Energy, drivers can save up to 83 cents per gallon if they maintain the speed limit and avoid rapid acceleration and braking. These tips may come in handy as AAA reports that prices normally increase in the summer, meaning that drivers may not see prices drop significantly for another 5 months. Last week, JetBlue had to remove a pilot for creating unsafe circumstances for his passengers. Reporter Aaron Ute has all the details about the arrest.
Airport police officers removed a pilot from a cockpit of a JetBlue flight departing Buffalo last Wednesday morning as it conducted sobriety tests that indicated blood alcohol content for more than 4 times the federal limit for pilots, authorities said. The pilot, James Clifton, 52, was taken into custody by the Niagara Frontier Transportation Authority police, who notified the federal authorities and released him to JetBlue security personnel, according to the Transportation Authority, which operates the Buffalo airport. A spokesperson for the Transportation Authority said in a statement that the pilot had not been arrested by the airport police, but added that he could face federal charges and that the investigation was still continuing. When Clifton went through a security screening at around 6:15 a.m., a security administration officer noted that he, quote, may have been impaired. The statement continued by saying that the pilot made it into the cockpit, where he was then given a portable breathalyzer test and registered a blood alcohol content of 0.17. The Federal Aviation Administration prohibits pilots from flying planes if they have a blood alcohol content of 0.04 or higher, or if they have consumed alcohol within the last 8 hours. In New York State, the threshold for a charge for driving while intoxicated is a blood alcohol content of 0.08. Derek Dombrowski, a JetBlue spokesperson, said in a statement that, quote, the crew member involved has been removed from his duties and that the airline has very strict zero-tolerance internal alcohol policy. Dombrowski also stated that the airline is conducting its own internal investigation in addition to the Federal Aviation Administration investigation.
Recently, the Senate has voted to make some changes to the USPS system. Reporter Sam Hindman has more details about what the changes are and how they will affect the company.
On Tuesday, a bill intended to modernize and update the U.S. Postal Service has ran through the Senate. The final vote on the bill, was overwhelmingly bipartisan in favor, likewise with its sweep through the House of Representatives last month. This act, entitled the Postal Service Reform Act, would require retired postal employees to enroll in Medicare when eligible, while also dropping a previous mandate that forced the agency to cover its healthcare costs years in advance. According to the House Oversight Committee, just these two measures would be enough to save USPS nearly $50 billion over the next decade. Alongside these provisions, the bill will also mandate that USPS creates an online dashboard with delivery time data both locally and nationally. In regards to the bill, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer stated, quote, "Thankfully, for the past few months, Democrats and Republicans have been working together in good faith to reform some of the most troubled parts of the Postal Service. The bill is now making its way to Joe Biden's desk to await becoming signed into law."
Coming up after the break, find out all your local Pittsburgh news. Reporter Sam Hindman has all the details about a new hospital opening up in the Pittsburgh area. Stay tuned. Starbucks workers in Pittsburgh held a rally on Saturday to highlight their attempt to unionize. The event hosted speeches from local officials, including State Reps Summer Lee and Sarah Innamorato and Mayor Ed Gainey. The mayor gave a passionate speech to the crowd and emphasized that the workers' efforts are, quote, making a better world for the next generation. City Councilwoman Deb Gross, who represents the Bloomfield area, remarked on Pittsburgh being a union town and cited those efforts as adding to the prosperity of the city. The Pittsburgh baristas were approved in their request for a union vote, which is set to take place on March 24th, with the results 3 weeks after that. In a letter to the Starbucks CEO, the workers in favor of the union cited poor working conditions as the main source of their concern. Guaranteed hours, better pay, and wage transparency were some of the provisions that the baristas were hoping to instate if they successfully unionize. This call for unionization comes after similar efforts were successful in Starbucks locations in Buffalo, New York, and Mesa, Arizona. Joining them is the Cafe on Pitt's campus, where workers sent a letter to Starbucks CEO Kevin Johnson on March 4th. In the letter, workers contrasted increased corporate profits with the reduced hours for individual workers. Petitions for baristas to unionize have increased tenfold since December of 2021, and with the success of more and more stores, those numbers are likely to increase. In local news, find out what social media app has come under investigation here in Pennsylvania. Also, get more details about a business that has been a victim of a robbery. Here's Alex Zonheiser with more of the details.
An investigation into the TikTok social media platform has been launched by Pennsylvania Attorney General Josh Shapiro. He is taking action alongside a coalition of attorney generals who are concerned with children and young adults using the app, as they believe that it could hurt them both mentally and physically. Joshua McGivern, a behavioral health therapist with Allegheny Health Network, said, quote, "If you are 16 or 17, maybe you are going through a severe bout of depression or struggling with your body image. You start clicking like and commenting on people going through that same thing you are, maybe aren't dealing with it in the best ways. The app is just going to keep feeding you more of that material, end quote. Shapiro is examining whether TikTok violated state consumer protection laws, looking into the techniques that the company could have used to boost user engagement, including increasing the time spent on the platform. A man pulled a gun on and robbed 2 employees at Boost Mobile on Penn Avenue in Wilkinsburg on Tuesday, March 1st. This is the 3rd time in a year that the store has been hit, and each time the gunman gets bolder. The regional manager, Michael, who only used his first name out of fear of retaliation, said, quote, "The first 2 happened with single coverage of my store, 1 person working. The gentleman comes in, brandishes a weapon, asks us for all the money, and leaves. This time I had 2 individuals working, and he stayed in the store a little bit longer, threatened to shoot them if they don't come up with more money. Seems to just be escalating each time it's happened," end quote. The police said that the gunman ran off to a nearby apartment building but lost him. Michael thinks that the man is local, as he has done it on foot 3 times. He also said, quote, "Each time it's been hoodie up with surgical mask on, or one of the disposable masks covering the other 70% of the face. So that's very difficult. It's clearly someone who has been in our store because he pays attention to the cameras, keeps his head down where he thinks they are, but we do have multiple angles now," end quote. Michael will now require masks to be removed and said all customers will be on camera before they can go inside.
There's been a plan since 2017 to build a new UPMC hospital in Oakland. Sam Hindman has more details on the location and size of the building that will be proposed.
Next week, UPMC will propose another major hospital in Oakland, along with their other public project in the works, which is the Duquesne University College of Osteopathic Medicine. The company will stand before the City Planning Commission to explain their plans for the 17-story, 636-bed hospital. This project was initially announced in 2017, meaning that it's been quite a long time in the making. The planned location for the hospital is a vacant lot on the corner of 5th Avenue and DeSoto Street, right in front of the pre-existing UPMC Presbyterian. Spokeswoman Gloria Creeps explained that the new hospital will be primarily functioning as a treatment center for those with heart and transplant-related issues. Though there are currently no refined dates for the expected completion, the construction is scheduled to break ground sometime this summer.
From 70-degree weekends to snow in the middle of the week, Pittsburgh's weather has taken us all on a seasonal roller coaster this week. Luckily, Craig Frykowski has the outlook for the rest of the week. Craig?
Thanks, Nick. Let's start with tomorrow's forecast. The high is going to be 50 degrees. The day is looking to be cloudy, but luckily no rain or snow. It's going to be an average day, not too hot, but not too cold either. At night, the temperature is going to drop to 29 degrees with some slight winds. There will not be any rain or snow that night, so we can expect Friday to be a dry morning. Now let's take a look at the rest of the week. This week, the warmest days are going to be Thursday and Wednesday with highs of 58 and 62 degrees respectively. However, the coldest days are still ahead with Saturday and Sunday being in the low 30s. Unfortunately, Saturday has a forecast of 3 to 6 inches of snow, but none of that will stick around for very long. The sun will be peeking out on Sunday, Monday, and Wednesday. By the end of the week, we'll be seeing 62 degrees and sunshine. It looks like winter is finally coming to an end. That's all I have for you this week. Back to you, Nick.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of NewsNight. If you want to see more, check us out on our social media pages at both Facebook and Instagram at UView Television. You can also check out more episodes on our YouTube channel or website at uview.pointpark.edu. I'm Nick Konopka, and from everyone here at NewsNight, thank you for watching and have a great evening.